right. All right, folks, so here we are. We're doing our lesson on correlation today, the correlation coefficient. We got a few new faces. I have muted Juan because, Juan could be here, but we've had enough of Juan for one set of notes here, all right? So, hey to him, but he ain't gonna say hey back. So today we have Samantha. Hey, Samantha.
Hi.
Samantha's in our 7th period class. We also have Felipe. What's going on, Felipe?
Hello.
Felipe,
I'm
what
in
period are you in?
6th period.
6th period.
I'm
Okay.
in 6.
And then we also have with us Emily. What's going on, Emily?
Good.
Emily is also in. What's going on, Emily? Good. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And we've got Juan clapping for everybody, which is great. Okay, I love the reactions. Emily's in 7th period along with Juan and Samantha. All right, so today we're gonna, let me go ahead and share my screen here. We're gonna look at our correlation notes. So go ahead and get up your guided notes. And correlation is another like real simple thing, just like residuals, just a couple of things to remember here, okay? So correlation relates to, okay, if I'm looking at this first line, the scatter plot here, I notice that there's sort of this trend like this, right? So we're gonna like draw my little trend line, or line of regression we call it. We could say that there is a relationship between the years since 1993 and the number of violent crimes committed, okay? This relationship looks like, what would you say? Is it going up? Is it going down? What's it doing here?
Going down.
It's going down, right?
Down.
So one way of saying this is because we've got this relationship here, we would say it has a negative correlation. Pretty basic and simple, right? What that means is as the years go up, the crimes go down, right? Negative correlation, we talked about that in the original scatter plots lesson, right? As one thing goes up, the other one comes down, right? That's a negative correlation. Okay, so if we're going on down here, one of the ways that we measure correlation, whether it's positive or negative, is we use this number called the correlation coefficient. It sounds super fancy, makes you sound really smart. Correlation coefficient tells you the strength and the direction of your relationship, okay? Correlation coefficient tells you the strength. Let me get that a little smaller. The strength and the direction. Come on, man. I'm still figuring out how to use this little editing tool. So here's some examples here, right? Like here I have a strong correlation because I can see that the dots are all like really close to my line of regression here. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And since the line is going downward, that makes it negative. Okay, so it's a strong negative correlation. I got the strength there and I got the direction that the line is moving. Okay. On the opposite end, we got like all the dots that are really close. That makes it strong. And the line is going up, which makes it positive, right? So we got a strong positive there. Okay. Here you can see that the dots are a little bit looser. So they're, it's a weaker fit, still going down. Okay. And then weaker fit, but going up there. Okay. Does that make sense? Any questions? Felipe's dog has a question.
Yeah, no, my dad got home, so.
Okay. All right, so correlation coefficient, for some reason, somebody decided that the variable that we're always going to use for that is called R, okay? So correlation coefficients, or R, can always range from -1 to +1, okay? Correlation coefficients go from -1 to +1. Felipe, what's the name of your dog?
Toby.
Toby.
Yeah, he's
Toby
downstairs.
sounds like a yapper.
Toby.
He is one.
Come on, mute yourself.
Yeah, come on, Juan.
I'm talking.
All right, so all right, here's where you guys come in. Okay, I'm looking here. It says a positive value of R. You think that's going to be positive or negative correlation?
Positive.
Yeah, Emily, you got it. I know it's really tough, right? And then a negative R value is going to be,
Negative.
yeah, man,
Negative.
you guys are super smart. Okay, so if R is like 1, I know, oh, it's gonna, the correlation's going up. If R is negative 1/2, I know that I've got a negative correlation going down. Okay. All right, so positive correlation, negative correlation, that's pretty easy. It goes from -1 to +1. Now, here's the thing. Here's the other really important piece of information to remember. The stronger the correlation, the closer that R is going to get to either +1 or -1. Okay? If I'm close to either 1 or -1, it's a strong correlation. Whereas if I have a weak correlation, it's going to be closer to 0. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, strong correlation can be either strong positive or strong negative, but as long as it's close to one of the poles, like either 1 or negative, then you're good. Then you're good there. Okay? So if we look at task number 1, okay, so if I see here, I see this first R value is almost 0.
Mhm.
So if my R value is almost 0, Samantha, is that going to be a strong or a weak correlation?
Weak.
Weak, because it's like virtually 0, right? So I got a weak one right here. Which scatter plot looks like it's really weak?
The third one.
Yeah, the third one, right? Super, super loose, right? So over here, I'm going to match this R value to that scatter plot. It's a super weak correlation. So -0.001. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Cool. All right, so now that I just kind of give you an idea of how this works, if we go back and we look at this first scatter plot here, Emily, does that look like a strong or weak correlation?
Strong.
Okay, so super strong because look at all the dots really, really close to that line. It's a really tight fit. Is it going up or down, Emily?
Down.
Yeah, so which R value is going to be closest to this one here? The one that you're given here. I'm looking for really strong, so it's either going to be close to 1 or -1. And you said it was
negative 0.991.
Yeah, you got it. So I know it's going to be negative because it's going down. It's very close to 1.
Yeah, close to
0.991. Make sense?
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, so Felipe, you pick any one of the other scatter plots and tell me which value it's going to be.
Okay. So we're gonna do the fourth one. So it's gonna be +0.990.
Okay, why do you say point?
And it's gonna be the fifth one because it's close to 1, and it's positive.
Oh, you said the fifth one. Ah.
I said the fourth one. So it's yeah. So it's like the top one on the fourth one, then like the boxes with the scatter plot. It's the fifth one.
Oh, I see. Over
Yeah.
here?
Yep.
Gotcha.
And it's going
Okay.
up, so it'll be positive, and it's close to 1, so it's gonna be tight.
Beautiful. All
Can I
right,
do the next
so
one?
you got 2 remaining. Which one do you want to do, Samantha?
I'll do the fourth one on the bottom line, and since it's going up, I'm guessing it's 0.790.
right? Okay, so why'd you say 0.790?
Because it's kind of close to 1 and it's going upwards.
Great, so we got positive for sure, and it's pretty close to 1 there. Okay, so we're in good shape. Which means there's only 1 left. Juan really wants to do it. Okay, Juan, fine.
Hey. All right. So the last one is negative 0.547. I had to get the 7 because it's going downwards and it's not close to 1. So there's like a more spread of dots.
Great. And that takes care of it all. You guys okay so far? Any questions?
Yep.
No?
All right, you guys are rock stars. All right,
Dude.
so the closer the points are to the line, the blank the absolute value of R will be. What should go in that blank? Remember, absolute value is like the distance away from 0.
Smaller?
Okay, so if I have a smaller absolute value, it's going to be close to 0, and that means it's a stronger relationship.
Stronger.
Is close to 0 stronger, or is close to 0 weaker?
Stronger.
Remember, close to 0 means weaker relationship, okay? Closer
Wait,
to 1 or negative 1 is going to be where you get the stronger relationships.
Oh, wait, you said 0?
Yeah, closer to 0.
Oh, I cannot hear. People are outside my house working.
All right, so we got close to 0 is weak. Closer to 1 or negative 1, we got strong. Okay. So the closer the points are to the line, we're looking for a strong relationship, right? So we would say the greater the absolute value. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
The closer R is to 0, the blank
Weaker.
relationship. What would we say here? Yeah, the
Weaker.
weaker. All right, so last thing here, we got 2 correlation coefficients. One of them is positive 0.45, and one of them is negative 0.45. So they both indicate what about the strength?
They're kind of weak.
Yeah, they're closer to 0 than 1.
Okay. How far are they both away from 0?
0.45.
Right. So they're actually like they're sort of weak, right? They're kind of loose, and they're exactly the same amount of strength, right? Just in opposite directions, right? Oh, dang it, I just
Yep.
gave you the second answer.
Yes.
So they do indicate the same strength, right? Because they're both, like you guys just said, they're both 0.45 away from 0, but in opposite directions.
Opposite direction.
Okay. So we got like a positive sort of weak one. We got a negative sort of weak one. Questions?
No,
Okay, so
not right now.
let's stop and say, like, why do we even care about this? Okay, so correlation coefficients are really important when you're looking at data because sometimes when we are trying to look at data, we find things that don't match, right? Sometimes they do match, and that's kind of what we want. That we call that causation. I'll give you an example of 2 things that like obviously go together, right? If I said something like, there is a relationship between the amount of rain and the number of umbrellas that a store is going to sell. You'd say, okay, that probably makes sense, right? Because the more rain I have, the more people are going to go buy an umbrella, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
There is a correlation there. Another
Yeah.
example would be like the amount of sunshine that's outside correlates to the amount of sunscreen that people are going to wear. Like that's a causal relationship, right? More sun means more sunscreen being used, hopefully, right?
Yeah.
I could also say another causal relationship, this is a negative correlation, right? Would be like
Yeah.
the less I brush my teeth, the more what happens?
Cavities you'll get.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's a causal negative relationship, right? I got less brushing means more cavities. Can you guys think of an example of like two things that like don't go together, like there's no relationship?
Dogs and cats.
Oh my god. Wet and dry.
Sorry?
Wet and dry.
Well, that actually like, okay, so tell me about that. Like what
Okay,
situation?
not really. Like, next one.
Because I'm kind of thinking, I mean, Samantha, you're like drinking right now. I like it. So like, I'm thinking that that actually is a negative relationship, right? Like the more something is wet, the less it is dry. But that's actually a negative relationship, right? I have a more or less relationship there.
I'm getting confused.
I know this part's kind of like weird. All right, let me give you, I'll just give you a statement. You tell me if it makes sense or not, right? Let's say I say, hey, the number of stops that a school bus has, the more stops a school bus makes, the less students get on the bus. Does that make sense?
No.
Not really.
Why doesn't that make sense, Samantha?
Because obviously, if you have more stops, there's more children in each stop.
Right. So you got to be careful because like sometimes data doesn't look like it makes sense. You got to be like, hey, time out. Hold on just a second, right? Like what if I said like the number of people currently living in China and the price of my Starbucks coffee. Does that make sense to have a relationship?
Not really.
Yes.
Not really. No. Not at all.
All right, so I can explain.
Well, we never asked you.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's sort of the reason that we have this idea of strength is because sometimes the data doesn't match, and that's okay, right? And we would just say there's an R of 0, right? Like number of people in China has nothing to do with my Starbucks coffee, so that's a 0 relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so 3 quick questions for you fine people. First question.
Oh, no.
You got all this information down here for a task 2, but the only thing that really matters is they give you the correlation coefficient. They tell you that the correlation coefficient is 0.984. So for starters, is that a strong correlation or is it a weak correlation?
Strong.
Definitely
Strong
strong
one.
because it's close to 0. Or sorry, it's close to 1, right? Is it
Yep.
a positive or negative correlation?
Positive.
Negative.
What?
Oh, wait.
Strong
Positive.
and positive.
Oh.
You're looking at the second one. Or the
Oh, I
third
was looking at the other one.
Yeah, I got you. So 0.984, it's close to 1, that makes it strong. It's positive, so we call it positive. Done. Okay? In this context, that means the higher the temperature, the more cones that are sold. Makes it simple.
Yeah.
All right, for the second one, Samantha, you said it's strong and negative.
Yeah.
All right, strong again because it's close to 1. It's got a negative there. We've already kind of talked about this one, right? The more the years, the less the crime. That's a negative relationship.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next one here gives you a correlation coefficient of negative 0.639.
Me.
So
Me.
there is a negative correlation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could say it's negative. It's not particularly strong, but it is there, right? So we could say like loose or somewhat weak. Negative correlation. There still is a correlation. If it were super weak, it'd be like really close to 0.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it for correlation coefficient. There's 2 things to remember, right? The closer it is to 1, the stronger, or -1, the stronger the relationship is. And if it's positive or negative, that tells you the direction that it's going.
Yep.
Any questions?
No.
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 Okay, cool.
No.
I'm pretty good.
All right, Juan, you're going on mute again. All right.
It's happened.
So, guys, thank you so much for your help. It's good to have like new faces in here. If you are interested in being a part of a future lesson, you send me a note. I know a couple of people have sent me a note already, and they're going to be in the next video, hopefully. So we've come to the portion of our lesson where you guys get to give shout outs. So if you got somebody in particular, maybe somebody from your class or not. So Felipe, let's go ahead and start with you.
I'll just shout out my 6th period because I'm the only one repping 6th period here. So thank you, Fabian, Stanley, Ayan, Ravi, Aziz, the whole shebang of people.
Awesome. How about Samantha? Anybody you want to shout out?
My 7th period, but not Juan because in the last video he shouted everyone but me. So yeah.
And Emily.
My table and Ella and Kayla. So
I'm in your table.
Samantha, you're right there. You're in this call.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time where we start talking about, what are we talking about next time? Oh, yeah, 2-way frequency tables. See you next time. Oh, yeah, super fun.
Oh, Juan doesn't get a shout out.
Bye.
Oh, man.
No.
Good, as it should be. As it should be.
All right, see you next time.